What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. I'm very excited about today's episode. So I was recently cooking some bacon. What a way to start a story. I was recently making bacon, and as is the case when you make bacon, there's a lot of grease left over. Don't ask me why. I poured it into a cup, which is usually what I do. I don't just pour it down the drain in the sink. Collected all this grease, and I'm thinking to myself, is there anything this grease could be used for? Is it useful? It kind of seems, sometimes you just get a feeling about something, and I feel like I just shouldn't be throwing this out. So knowing that grease will solidify, right? Once it cools down, it hardens up. I thought to myself, I wonder if you could spread this on toast, right? In place of something like butter, because I don't eat butter. I don't have anything against it nutritionally. I think it's probably a good food. With dairy, I stay away from it. I don't feel great when I consume it. It messes up my stomach. But I'd be lying if I said I don't miss having, a nice hot roll sometimes, as a treat with butter on it. And it's literally one of the greatest things ever, right? And all of the butter substitutes that they put out, a lot of them just made from different seed oils, and I don't know. I think a lot of them are probably crap. Some of them taste decent, but it's not something I really enjoy using. So usually when it comes to bread, a roll, whatever, I'll just dip it in some olive oil, but it's not the same as like that butter taste. So what do? I take to Google, as any scholarly person would do. And what do I find out? Son of a bitch. Maybe bacon grease is even a better option than butter. So just so I don't give you any misinformation, right? Now, let me just preface this by saying I really don't care. Meaning, I don't care about cholesterol. I don't care about saturated fat. I'm just not overly concerned with it. I focus more on other factors, but that's for another episode entirely. But assuming a person is concerned with saturated fat and cholesterol, and that would be the premise upon which if you said, hey, have some bacon grease, they would go, oh my God, that's terrible, you're trying to kill me. 1 tablespoon of butter, got some Kerrygold here. 1 tablespoon has 11 grams of total fat, 7 grams of which are saturated, and 30 milligrams of cholesterol. By comparison, right, 1 tablespoon, let's see here, 1 tablespoon of bacon grease has 12 grams of total fat, right, versus 11 in the butter. 5 of which are saturated versus 7 grams of saturated fat in the butter, and 12.3 milligrams of cholesterol versus 30 milligrams in the butter. So what you're telling me is that bacon grease has almost 1/3 of the cholesterol of butter and less saturated fat, slightly more total fat. I was pretty surprised, and because it's lower in saturated fat, it is actually higher in monounsaturated fat. So apparently maybe bacon grease isn't the demon that you would expect it to be. Now I know there's become kind of like a recent love affair with butter. Oh, grass-fed butter. Hey, that's cool. I've got nothing against it. But I think if you're someone who does like butter, hey, you know what? Maybe you like bacon grease. It sounds terrible to call it bacon grease, right? But that's what it is, the bacon drippings. I'm gonna show you, I've got some bacon today, right? Some really thick cut stuff that's really delicious. I'm gonna make it. You know what, I'll show you how I make bacon. I might as well, since we're doing it. But the whole purpose is to collect the drippings, let it solidify, and kind of just show you how I use it. Not rocket science or a whole lot to show, but I thought you guys might find this concept interesting, especially if you're somebody who doesn't consume dairy, but you enjoy butter. Who doesn't? Let's proceed. So I've just set the oven to 400, and I don't pan fry bacon. It makes a mess. It's a pain in the ass. You're putting long strips of bacon into a circular pan. So much easier. Just use a baking sheet, all right? Lay it on there, pop it in the oven, let it cook. It doesn't curl, it doesn't shrink, it doesn't, get all misshapen. It just cooks nice and easily. Then you can just kind of elevate the pan, let all the drippings run down. We'll collect it. I'm gonna show you how that works. And I don't know if they have this bacon everywhere, but it is delicious. Now, each one of these packages is 12 ounces, and you only get 4 pieces per package. So what do you got? 3 ounces per piece of bacon. It's thick stuff. There's actually a steakhouse that I go to not far from here called Joseph's. Very, very similar to like a Peter Luger style steakhouse. And they serve this bacon, and it's like a freaking 3/4 of an inch thick, and it's delicious. And you know, nutritionally speaking, I grew up in the 80s, and you know, things like bacon were just completely demonized, right? It was the era of, you know, everything low fat, this and that. Cholesterol is bad. Saturated fat is bad. You want everything fat-free, low fat, carbs. People were way over consuming carbohydrates, and it took a long time to kind of break out of that, because I'm going to be honest with you. I mean, I guess we could argue about cholesterol and saturated fat, and you know something? I'll admit, I'm not the final authority on it. I don't know if anyone is, but if something is natural, meaning it comes from nature, like it's like a single ingredient food. I mean, bacon is just literally meat. Yes, it has, I mean, this has in it brown sugar and less than 2% of salt, vinegar, rosemary extract. So, you know, I'm gonna be honest with you. I feel better about consuming something like this than I do consuming something that maybe it's, hey, it's low in fat and it's low in cholesterol, but it contains 50 ingredients, and some of them I can't pronounce. So I always feel like if food is really simple and maybe it's like one ingredient or just a few ingredients, I don't know, I don't feel so bad about it. So simple. Rather than going through the trouble of cooking this in a pan, you probably have to dirty up how many pans or do how many different rounds of it. Then you've got grease splattered all over your cooktop. Just put it on the sheet, pop it in the oven. So much easier. Depending on how well done you like your bacon, which I actually don't like mine really, really crispy. I know that's popular. People like to cook the living shit out of it. I like it not soft and soft and mushy, but you know, just cooked enough, because I like what I'm eating, right? I don't have to actually obliterate it to enjoy it. So it's probably gonna take about 20 or so minutes, and I'm gonna show you. All right, the bacon is now done. I'm gonna take it out of the oven, and see this piece of 2x4 that I have on the back of my oven. That's there for a reason. Kind of elevate that tray and let all the hot. Let all the drippings run down. I'm gonna bring this pan over here and take some of this off. As you can see, one side is a bit more crisp than the other. Oh, that's my timer going off. And because we want to get as much of the drippings out of it as possible, I'm going to let those just kind of hang out there. And I've got a couple jars here. There shouldn't be that much to fill both, but probably enough to come close to filling one. And then it's easy to just, you know, cap it. I mean, you could use a paper cup for a while. I was using coffee cups and just cover it with some tin foil, but this is a little, well, it's high class. So all we're gonna have to do is just dump the drippings into here and let it cool, and it's going to solidify, and then we're just gonna scoop it out as we want it and spread on some bread. It's gonna be freaking delicious. So now that I've got all the bacon off, usually I would do this over the sink, but since you guys are here, So I know that it's just really weird to think about this because you're taught like, oh my God, bacon grease. It's just gonna clog your arteries and you're gonna die after the first time you have some. But let's be honest, like I said, if you're a believer in butter, and again, I have nothing against butter. I think butter is great. I just don't feel great when I use it. But if you are a fan of butter, it would make sense that you would be a fan of this, and potentially even more so. And I can tell you right now, when you spread that on some bread, which I'm gonna do, I've got some rosemary bread that I'm gonna toast, let this firm up, spread it on there with a little bit of salt. You'll see. So at this point, the bacon grease is now solidified. I've got some bread toasting. It's some rosemary bread. It's delicious. The best way though, I get these rolls, right, from this Portuguese bakery, the next town over, and like each roll is like a mini loaf of bread. And when you put it in the toaster, the outside gets all like crusty, and then inside it's all like airy and doughy. Oh, some of this on there, incredible. But I've got some rosemary bread. Should be almost toasted. We're gonna pull it out, spread some of that on there. I mean, you can see, right? It's gonna be basically just like spreading butter. But the difference is it's like smoky and really rich and smooth. But when you eat it, you don't taste like, it doesn't taste like you're eating something bad. Like you think, well, it's bacon grease, but it doesn't taste any greasier than butter would. If anything, I'm gonna almost say it tastes potentially a little bit lighter. Let's grab that out of there. Oh, it spreads so easy. That's one thing compared to butter. You know, if butter is cold, it's not gonna spread. I mean, this just spreads so nice. Oh, it's like, well, I was gonna say it spreads like butter, but better. Now, one piece here for me, and one for my camera guy, because he's about to become a believer. Just hit it with a little salt. Oh, it's got that slight smoky bacon smell. It's so good. You guys gotta do this. You know you're gonna make some bacon anyways at some point, so you gotta save it. Oh. And imagine that, it's like a third of the cholesterol. Again, not like I care, but if that's the kind of thing you get hung up on, a third of the cholesterol, less saturated fat, more monounsaturated fat. And we just rendered this an hour ago. It's fresh. And the tendency toward rancidity, I mean, it's not gonna go rancid very easily. We're gonna put that cap on it. It's gonna go in the fridge. Stuff would probably stay good for like a year. I don't know, I mean, I wouldn't let it go that long. And it's so delicious, it's never gonna last that long. But, oh, you guys will thank me. In the meantime though, comment below. Let me know what videos you wanna see. As always, thank you for watching. Subscribe. I love you guys. I'll see you soon.